It's January 29th. We are just 9 days out from a presidential transition, an administrative transition. The FAA administrator resigned at the end of the Biden administration, so there is no permanent confirmed FAA administrator right now.
So apparently the planes are crashing because of Donald Trump. Apparently the orange man is so bad, he is literally making the planes fall out of the sky. And I wish we were joking about that, but we're obviously not joking, and this is a very serious situation. But that is the argument that CNN and many characters on the left have tried to make in the wake of the aerial tragedy that took place in DC, and now with what happened tonight in Philadelphia. I'm sure they're going to say the same exact thing. And the argument here, to present it in good faith, is essentially that because right before this all happened, Trump fired a lot of people in the federal government, including some people dealing with aviation. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what caused this plane crash to happen. Now, in today's video, we're going to show you the argument that they're making, as well as prove why it's wrong, right? As a matter of fact, the fact that this is all happening is proof that Trump should be firing the people currently in charge of air travel because they're incompetent, and this is an issue that is not new, right? You've seen a lot of close calls in American air travel for the past few years now, when historically, for the past decade, basically before that, air travel was pretty safe. We'll explain all of that in today's video. So folks, first, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure that you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. You subscribing is the #1 way to ensure we can keep doing these videos. And we are back home in the studio, by the way, just got back from DC. Thankfully, right? Thankfully for sure. So make sure you hit that red button. And with that said, okay, so again, I'm not making this up. Here is CNN basically suggesting that Trump is to blame for the plane crash in DC.
Mary, I have one more question for you. Look, it's January 29th. We are just 9 days out from a presidential transition, an administrative transition. The FAA administrator resigned at the end of the Biden administration, so there is no permanent confirmed FAA administrator right now. This is going to be a time when there's going to be a lot of public communication, right, and a lot of investigation of what happened here. What do you anticipate this transition period is going to mean for what happens today and tomorrow and in the coming days as we find out what happened here?
Yeah, so as you saw right there in that clip, they're already starting to suggest, hey, maybe did Trump have something to do with this? Does this all happen because of the presidential transition, if you know what I mean? Because our beloved President Joe Biden, who was obviously a beacon of competence in this world, is no longer in charge of the federal bureaucracy and air travel. And then a little bit later, or, basically today, the Democrats have started to go full all out in blaming Trump directly, because as you can see right here from a U.S. Democrat senator from New Mexico, he is pointing this out, and this is what a lot of the media is saying, a lot of the Democrats are saying, which is that a little bit before this happened, like a couple days before, Donald Trump, when he first got into office, fired the heads of the TSA, the Coast Guard, and he also got rid of what they're calling a key Aviation Safety Advisory Committee. So basically the argument here is, hey, you fired a bunch of people who are in charge of keeping the air travel safe, and because of that, look what just happened. Clearly, Trump, you must have caused this tragedy, right? To which I say, no, that's not how it works, okay? In fact, I would make the basically exact opposite argument, which is that this all happening is vindicating proof that Trump should absolutely be firing the people in charge of the FAA and our air travel and air safety and all of that. And you may be saying, how could that be the case? Isn't that crazy? I mean, clearly, like, you just got rid of them, and then this, worst tragedy in American air travel since 2009 happens. Clearly, it was because you fired them. No. It's proof that they should have been fired. And I'll tell you exactly why. There's two reasons here. Reason number one is that, let's be realistic, okay? These standards for air travel, if Trump wanted to change them, would not magically change here in the span of a week and a half, right? Maybe a couple of years into this presidency, you could make the argument, but no, as of right now, the air traffic controllers and the bureaucracy and everything involved here is still, for the most part, going by the Biden era rules and regulations and protocols and all of that, okay? So it's just ridiculous to claim that, like, a week after Trump got into office, he changed the air traffic control system so drastically that all of a sudden we have plane crashes. Okay, that's nonsense. But here you go. Point number two, and I think this is the most important thing that people need to know. This is being underreported, is the fact that under Biden's presidency, this was actually a massive problem at the DCA Ronald Reagan Airport. Okay, as you can see right here, according to reporting from Fortune magazine, the Reagan Airport, which is a notoriously congested destination, obviously where the crashed American Airlines flight happened, experienced at least 8 near-miss accidents last year in 2024 when Joe Biden was still president alone. Okay, and I think it's also been reported that even the day before this happened, there were 2 near-miss accidents happening near the DC airport. So what is our overall point? Well, I don't know, guys, but it seems to me that this is actually full vindication that the people who Trump fired here, right, working at things like TSA, aviation safety, all of that, should have been fired. Like, it was absolutely the right call because, as you can see, in the DC airport, back when Biden was president, this is a constant problem, which is that the airspace is so busy where the civilians and the military and all this stuff are almost crashing into each other. Again, 8 near-miss close calls in 2024. And finally, and unfortunately, it ended tragically in the inevitable conclusion of, what was going to happen with all of this chaos in the airspace over DC. And yeah, I would look at that as Trump and say, okay, in that case, this was a repeated problem. You guys did nothing about this. And now it concluded in, again, the worst tragedy in American air travel since 2009. Yeah, maybe you guys should all be fired. I would go so far as to argue that Trump was quite literally ahead of the curve here. Like, he almost, in a sense, predicted this, unfortunately. Not that he directly predicted this, but he sort of foresaw this, which is precisely why he fired the people from the Biden administration in charge. Because let's not have short memories, guys. Let's not pretend like this is something totally unprecedented, new and unexpected, okay? There's been a lot of problems in the competency. I would argue we have a mass competency crisis in America right now, but specifically with American air travel for the past several years. There's been a lot of issues. You have the Boeing 787s and that whole scandal, everything that happened around the Christmas season where I think it was at LAX, right? Planes almost collided on the runway.
1346, West End Tower, good afternoon, wind 120 with 6. Key on, stop.
And then obviously in DC, it was like such a regular occurrence, it wasn't even getting reported on that, hey, planes like a few times every single year are almost crashing into each other and exploding. Okay, this all to me goes to show, yes, there is a competency crisis. Trump is calling that out. He was calling that out beforehand, and he's kind of unfortunately vindicated in this situation. But of course, that's not how CNN is framing it. And of course, what are they also saying? They're saying, how dare you, Mr. Trump, blame DEI for all of this when we don't know what really caused it. Of course, at the same time, the Democrats are saying, how dare you blame DEI? But also, Trump, it's your fault in reality that the air crises are happening. Take a listen here so we can better understand. Here is Kaitlin Collins basically trying to diagnose herself what the real problem is. And the conclusion is, of course, Trump being mean. But take a listen.
We don't know about the collision that claimed 67 lives here last night. But with the investigation only a few hours old, President Trump entered the White House briefing room today, took a moment of silence for the victims, and then almost immediately began to speculate, while providing no evidence, that diversity in hiring and policies of prior administrations somehow caused this disaster.
Then it's a group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white.
Now, the president has access to more information than almost anyone, but in a similar fashion to how he reacted to the New Orleans terror attack, falsely linking it to migrants, today he suggested that diversity initiatives were to blame, even as the bodies of these survivors were still being pulled from the Potomac. We don't even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane, you think that's going to make a difference?
asked for evidence of his claims, Trump offered this.
On DEI and the claims that you've made, are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power, you have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it.
Here's what is true. The standards and training to become an air traffic controller in the United States, which are the highest in the world, are relatively straightforward.
Yeah, well, clearly our standards for becoming an air traffic controller are not all that great if this was allowed to happen. Just saying, okay? And you may ask Trump, oh, how can you verifiably blame DEI when it's just so short out from the crash that there's no proof? Okay, how can you prove that him firing the safety committee people resulted in the plane crash itself? It's just like, okay, I get it all. But look, here is the overall point, and here is what is objectively true. Yeah, we can't necessarily prove whether or not DEI was to blame yet, but what we can verifiably and objectively say is that incompetency was to blame. And what I would say you're witnessing for the past several years here in America, especially since COVID, I don't know exactly what's going on, but everyone kind of senses it, is a mass competency crisis in America. Not just with air travel, but with like everything, right? And I don't know what's happened, but the average people you deal with, whether it is airlines or doctors or the baristas at the coffee shop, it's almost like everyone in America has just lost all their brain cells, right? I think everyone kind of sees what's going on. And perhaps DEI is not 100% of the reason for that, but one has to speculate it certainly is a contributing factor. And it's kind of hard for the FAA, for instance, to necessarily run from that when for years, as Trump brings up, actually, it started under the Obama administration, they have been pushing all of the DEI in federal air traffic control. And the timing there, sadly, is almost ironic because, again, back in 2009, when Obama first took office, that was the last major air tragedy in America. We were doing really well for a long time. For a long time, America had the safest air travel in the world. And then it concluded with this after years of having this feeling that incompetency is growing in America. And again, I want to point out the FAA said this themselves. Take a listen.
I'm Brad Mims, Deputy Administrator at the Federal Aviation Administration. We are looking for the best and brightest to join us as air traffic controllers. We need a diverse group of air traffic controllers to bring distinct perspectives to handle the ever-changing aerospace landscape. I'm calling on students and alumni from HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal colleges to apply now to become air traffic controllers. I don't want anyone interested to miss out on this amazing career opportunity. Make sure you complete your full application during our application window. The short application window ends on May 8th. We need a diverse, next-generation air traffic workforce with people from all backgrounds. So apply now.
So this is example 1000 of them literally saying that they were doing DEI, and then when conservatives point out that they're doing DEI, the media gets mad at us. They're like, how dare you point out what they said they were doing? But look, we can debate the causes of this all day long, right? Was it DEI? Was it not DEI? But I think, honestly, we, again, should all be able to agree that incompetence is to blame here. And in that case, the solution to all these problems going forward is obvious. You have to address the mass incompetency in a lot of important positions in America by rewarding them with competence. And that's where Trump is absolutely and verifiably right. Because how do you get rid of incompetency? Well, first of all, you have to fire people. You have to get rid of people who have proven with a track record to be incompetent. And you know where that starts, despite the fact that the left is obviously attacking him for it? I don't know. Maybe getting rid of the people related to air traffic control that, again, let's not have short memories. For the past several years under the Biden presidency, air travel was getting worse and worse. There's so many close calls and all this stuff. And then finally this happens. Yeah, the people who were running air travel need to be getting rid of. You need to replace incompetent people with competent people. And in that hiring process, the best way to hire new competent people is, guess what? Go on merits and certainly not have, guess what? DEI practices in hiring. Those are the two steps, right? To get rid of incompetency, it's pretty simple. Get rid of incompetent people and replace them with competent people. And in that sense, Trump is completely correct. So you can keep attacking him. You can keep saying, how dare he fire the incompetent people, that their standards are what was causing the problems with air travel, right? But he's correct about that. And then you can say, how dare he talk about DEI? But yeah, to address the competency crisis, you're going to need to not hire on DEI. So in all ways, really, Trump, his solutions here are completely correct. And I don't know, they can seethe about that all they want, but it's the truth. We have a competency crisis in America. We need to address it by rewarding competence. The FAA was not doing that. It's an objective fact, because not only do you have DEI hires, which conservatives are going to talk a lot about, but I again ask the question, under Biden, they set up this whole Aviation Safety Committee, and as they set it up, air travel is getting more dangerous. Just a couple thoughts there, something to consider. With that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.